Hello. I am going to do the last of the 3 peonies that are included in my Deluxe Paper Flower Toolkit with peonies. I've already done the hybrid peony, the fluffy peony, and today I am making a 3-inch ball peony. And today I'm also attaching it to a stiff wire, whereas oftentimes I put them on Oasis bind wire if I'm putting them on a canvas, or even if you put them on a frame or a headband or something like that. And when I do that, usually the sepals, I curve upward to go around the flower. But when I put it on a wire, I'll kind of shape them down to droop down. And I also have a thin leaf kind of hanging down from it as well. So the first thing that we're going to do with this is to shape the center. I need to get that shaped because I will glue the wire to the center strip. So I want to have that done ahead of time and ready to go when I want to shape the whole thing together. So usually what I do with my center strips is I just use this the shaping stick and bend over the tops of them, not all of them, just kind of randomly as I catch them as I go by. I just bend them this way and that way. And then they aren't just a stiff, artificial looking center. You can see it makes them kind of random and messy, but in a good way. So that's all I do to shape that. And then I'll use the quilling tool to roll it up. Let's see, get it into the slot and roll it. I oftentimes will put a little dot of glue when at the very beginning. You don't have to, especially with this size. Sometimes with bigger centers, if you don't secure that center and you're rolling many layers together, sometimes it might get away from you. But I'll just roll it up, and we don't add any more glue until we get to the very end. And then we'll put a little dot of glue and press it in place. Put my pin back in my glue bottle. And then I'll pop this off. And in order to, because I do want it flat on the bottom, I put it on the table and just give it a little tap with my finger. Is usually good enough to get it. That's mostly, let me give it a little more to make it flat on the bottom so that it gets good connection with the flower when I put it in place. So I'm going to make a little loop on the end of this wire. This is supposed to be 18 gauge wire, but it looks more like 20 gauge wire to me. I make a little loop on the end with round nose pliers and then bend it over with the square part of the pliers. And I'm going to glue it onto the back of my center strip here. And I have this little hot glue pot. I like, rather than using the trigger where you get the long string, I feel like I'm able to control the string a little bit with this. I kind of feel like it doesn't get quite hot enough, but for what I'm doing, it works just fine. So I'll set that aside. And now I will set the center aside while I shape the petals. And I don't trust hot glue, but when I glue this in place, I will have white glue underneath so that I don't have to worry about it coming loose. So now to shape these, I'll start with the sepals. And for that, I just use the stick and put the stick on top, my finger behind it, and curl it like that. Very easy to do. Set that aside. And the 2 bottom layers are the same size, so they will be shaped exactly the same. This is a plastic quilling mold and the metal ball tool. And so when you're using This, you want to start with the cup that it very easily goes into. I would really have to smush it too much to try to go in there. So we'll go into this cup. I'll use the larger part and just apply pressure on the whole surface of the petal. And then I'll move it down to the next smallest cup. And that will give me enough roundness for this first layer. See if you can see that there. It just shapes it really nicely. And one thing I'm looking for, so like when I put it into this cup, you can see that the edge of the petal just barely crosses the midline of the cup. I typically am happy with the shape if it is covering more of the bottom of the cup, and then it's just rounder. And I have found that I like the way they end up looking better that way. So these, you do that all the way around on both of those layers. I have them already shaped here. And then we'll move on to the next layer. And it's almost, I might even do it exactly the same. Actually, I bet it goes into this one, I think is how I did that. So we'll start off in the same cup, just apply pressure on the whole petal, and then go down and pop it into the next one, and it should very easily go in and take the shape. And you don't have to, but I really do like to add a little extra roundness on this one. And you try them different ways. A lot of it depends on how many flowers you're having to make. If you're making a lot of these, you probably won't put quite as much detail into everyone. But if you're just making a few of them, it's definitely worth putting the extra effort into making the petals really round by going. I only do 2, sometimes 3, especially for the very center. I want that very center to be really rounded. The outer petals aren't quite as important. So that's what I do with the third layer. I shaped it here, then here, then here. Let me grab that one that I already have shaped and put him there. And then this is the second from the top, and we will start it in this cup. And you can see that it's only just going across the middle point of the cup. So it definitely needs to go into this one to be shaped. But it would be really, you could stuff it in there, but I don't think it's necessary. So on this layer, I'm just going to do this cup and then this cup. And this paper is pretty, this is the Canson Color Line paper. I think it's about 80-pound paper, something like that. Super easy to work with, very similar to like a 65-pound cardstock. Takes the shape really fast and easy. So that is that layer all shaped up. And the very final one, we will start, I think we're going to go here, here, and here. So we'll start here, move it here. And it takes a little bit, you are having to stuff him a bit, but it's not real difficult, especially if you've already got that shape started. And he takes on a really nice round shape. And so I will do that with each of these petals here, here, and here. I'll do one more. And then these, when they're small like this, I think they're pretty fast to make once you have the practice of the shaping. Okay. And so I'll set that aside. I have one already shaped. So we're done with the mold there. And we do need to add a little bit of shape to the center of these. The bottom 2 layers, you don't even really have to do anything with them. And it's when I shape these, it's applying firm pressure in a circular motion. We'll do a little more with this one. And then for these 2 smaller ones, I'm going to definitely make them really round. And you apply pressure at the base of the petal and draw it toward the center. And I do like to overlap them evenly. It will take a more round shape faster and easier if you do that. So that's how I'll shape that one. And the final one, you just press and draw to the center. And these start to get hung up on each other. So I really have to help them to overlap the way that I want them to overlap. And then give it another little swirly, and it just turns into a nice little ball. And now I can start to assemble them. And because I'm putting this one on a wire, I'm going to put this with the sepals curving down. I can't see. There it is. And, oh, I'll add a leaf to this one as well. I have wired the back of this leaf with a little bit of, I think it's a 32 gauge cloth wrapped wire. And the shape that I add to this leaf, it does not have score lines, but I just put a stick on it and squeeze it a little bit. And it adds a little bit of a line and some shading and texture. And I'm going to want it to come out from one of these little corners. So I will just add a little bit of glue across here. Now it might be a little tricky to hold everything in place. And then I just take it to where the paper ends. I take it right up into that little elbow there. And then I'm going to want to just glue a layer of petals right on top of it. So I'll put glue around the wire in the middle and drop this down. And I use the flat ends of these shaping sticks in order to press the petal layer into the glue attaching to the paper underneath. And then I'll put another donut of glue and another layer of petals. And I really press all the way around. That helps to kind of even out the shape of the petals. And we'll add more glue for this layer. And offsetting the petals so that they're not directly, they fall in between the petals that are underneath of them. And now I'll start to probably use the pointy ends to apply pressure where the glue is. And on this layer, I will apply glue around the circle. Because you don't, when you have created this nice ball shape, if you put glue way out to the petals, it's going to actually pull it down flat, and you're going to lose a lot of that very round shape. So you want to try to keep that glue close. Let me get my tweezers to move it where I want it. Close to that center hole. Helps to keep its shape. And this is our last layer of petals. And I just love seeing this flower come together every time. It's really pretty. And you can even turn it sideways to see exactly where that hole is. And sometimes I need to use tweezers to kind of move those petals out of the way. They do sometimes get hung up on themselves. And I like where you're at. Got a little glue on that petal, but it wipes off. Okay, so I have all of this shaped and assembled. I just let it sit there for just a little bit to make sure everything's got a good hold. This art glitter glue dries clear that I use really does grab fast. So I will be able to move on to gluing my center strip in place. And I'm going to want to just pull these out a little bit. You can see that the full, you're not going to see the sides of it, so I don't need to put a lot of work into pulling them out very far, but I just want to open them up a little bit. And I use tweezers to lift this up off of the paper flower tool. And this can be kind of tricky. I have in the past, I have put glue down inside here and put the center on it. But when I'm running a wire through, what happens is it pulls a lot of glue out the backside. And you can do that. It's just a little messy. So what I do is I typically will turn it upside down, put the white glue on the back side of it, and then try to see that I'm not, okay, and pull it up. And that way I've got a good bit of glue at the base of the center, but because it's white glue, not hot glue, so it's not going to grab really fast, what I do to make sure that it stays in place is that I have these little clips, you know, binder clips, clothespins, whatever kind of clip you have should work. And I just clip that at the base of the wire, and that will keep it from coming out before it dries. So I just leave it like this to dry for a little bit, and it stays right where I want it. So that is how I shape this 3-inch ball peony.